On the greatest days, when the city was covered in a thick blanket of clouds, the illuminated signs proclaiming Creaker shone with extra brightness. Visible from Central Park, they seemed like a beacon in the gray sky. This name represented more than just a surname, it was the emblem of the most prosperous family in the region. Mercedes Creaker, founder and owner of the investment company, was the matriarch of the family. Under her influential leadership, the firm expanded its reach in the oil industry, growing with each passing year. At 75 years old, Mercedes commanded her empire from the top. Her spacious office occupied the top floor of the city's most imposing building. During her lunch break, Mercedes had the habit of standing in front of the enormous panoramic window in her office. She spent long minutes observing the urban landscape. Birds tracing patterns in the sky, people dwindling as they moved farther away, turning into tiny silhouettes, and vehicles swallowed by perpetual traffic jams. It's a constant dance out there, she thought, feeling her heartbeat in a peculiar rhythm. With her colossal fortune, Mercedes had the freedom to acquire whatever she desired and could travel the world without any impediments. However, on that day, she felt a strange tightness in her chest, a melancholy that left her unsettled. Turning her gaze away from the spectacle outside, Mercedes found a faded photograph resting on her desk. The portrait displayed the faces of her beloved husband, Pascal, and their precious children, Helen, Chuck, and Justin. Their frozen smiles in time caused even greater discomfort in Mercedes, as it had been a while since she had seen them smile like that, with genuine joy. Times were better, Mercedes murmured, staring at the image. Deep down, she knew that money and power couldn't buy the happiness that once radiated from her loved ones. Engulfed in nostalgia and loneliness, Mercedes's heart overflowed with longing. She held the faded photograph as if it were the last trace of true love. "Pascal, my love, look at the empire we built," Mercedes said, her soft voice sounding almost like a whisper as she tenderly embraced the photograph. "We are more than millionaires, we are kings in our own fortress. But you are no longer here." With a sad sigh, she scanned the luxurious office that surrounded her. The glass walls that isolated her from the world, the desks filled with modern computers, and the employees who worked silently, fulfilling their assigned tasks. "How did we come to this, Pascal?" Mercedes asked, her words filling the silence of the office. "All this money, all this power, and yet none of it can give me a chance to see you again, even for a moment." Pascal, the man she loved so much, had succumbed to stomach cancer 10 years ago. Despite all the wealth and resources they possessed, he had been powerless against the terrible disease. Her children, Helen, Chuck, and Justin, also inhabited the same city. They enjoyed the large sums of money they received for their involvement in the family business, but they seemed to have forgotten about the woman who gave them life. They didn't care about their mother, her health, or her affairs. They rarely visited her, and phone calls were almost non-existent. "All they do is revel in what they have," Mercedes muttered. "They've forgotten where they came from, who helped them get there." Mercedes listened attentively, each word seeping deeply into her heart. She nodded, understanding, before smiling gently at him. "I will make sure your salary is increased to $2,000. How does that sound, Harrison?" Mercedes offered, her voice soft but firm. The surprise that appeared on the young man's face was a small but valuable reminder of the power Mercedes possessed and the good she could still do. The young man, who introduced himself as Harrison, was clearly taken aback by Mercedes's generous proposal. He blinked at her, his eyes reflecting a mix of surprise and skepticism. "If you can really do that for me," he began, his voice wavering, "I will be forever grateful to you, Mercedes." Mercedes smiled, extending an invitation for a casual stroll, to which Harrison gladly agreed. He had just finished his shift, and the idea of relaxing in the company of such a pleasant lady seemed like a welcome diversion from the monotonous routine. Despite his role as a janitor, Harrison was kind and humorous, suggesting to Mercedes that they grab a bite at a cozy bistro nearby. She always strived to maintain a balanced diet. However, on that day, she decided to indulge in a small deviation from restrictive eating rules. Mercedes delighted in a hot dog, something she hadn't eaten in years, and savored a soda, the sweet and fizzy taste bringing her unexpected joy. It was a simple moment, but filled with a contentment she hadn't felt in a long time. After the meal, they decided to prolong the afternoon with a leisurely walk. They chatted about random topics, laughing and sharing stories, until the shiny display of a car dealership caught both of their attention. Amidst the parade of stunning cars, a Mercedes-Benz sports car gleamed under the spotlights. The sleek design and shiny paint made such an impression on Harrison that he found himself frozen in front of the display window. "One day, I'd love to have one of those," he murmured, his eyes fixed on the car. "And what would you do with a car like that, Harrison?" Mercedes asked, curious. Harrison hesitated, then took a deep breath before continuing. "My mother has been battling an illness for years, and I haven't seen joy in her eyes for a long time. She raised me alone, working tirelessly to support me. Now I am her only hope, her only joy. All the money I earn, I invest in her medications and supplements, hoping it can give her more time. But the doctors recently told me she has only a month to live." Harrison paused, swallowing hard before continuing. "Before she's gone, I promised myself that I would give her a ride in a luxurious car, just to make her feel special, and then take her to a beauty salon so she can have her hair done for a special dinner. I just want her to feel important, loved, even if only for a brief moment." As Mercedes listened to Harrison's account, she felt a knot form in her throat and tears well up in the corners of her eyes. The young man's love for his mother, so palpable and genuine, struck her deeply. She had never experienced such a display of affection from her own children. "You know, Harrison," she began, wiping away the stubborn tears that threatened to escape, "I just ordered one of those cars for the company owner. How about taking it for a test drive with me?" The surprise on Harrison's face was evident, but quickly replaced by a tangible excitement that lit up his eyes. He barely had time to process the offer before enthusiastically agreeing. Together, they purchased the luxurious car, and Mercedes, in a wave of generosity, instructed Harrison to call his mother. "Let's take your mother to see the lake from that painting," she said, determination softening her voice. "Let's make it an unforgettable evening for her." Harrison could barely contain the bubbling emotion within him as he took his mother to the nearest beauty salon. The excitement in his chest was almost palpable, and he couldn't wait to see the joy on his mother's face. After a refreshing transformation, they embarked on an unforgettable trip with Mercedes. Arriving at the lake nestled at the foot of a majestic mountain, the trio delighted in the almost mystical landscape that stretched before them. The calm water of the lake reflected the serene beauty of the mountain, creating a truly spectacular sight. They sat, enchanted by the beauty, as the sun began its descent, painting the sky with vibrant colors. "Wow, it's so beautiful," murmured Harrison's mother as they savored hot chocolate and watched the spectacular sunset. Harrison, observing his mother's radiant expression, finally let out a relieved sigh. It was the happiest face he had seen on his mother in a long time. The gratitude he felt for Mercedes was immense, as if God had sent her. "Mercedes," he said, his voice filled with gratitude, "I don't know how to thank you for this. It feels like God himself sent you to us." The next day, Harrison was notably absent from work. The news reached Mercedes that the young man's mother had passed away. Her heart ached for the boy who, in such a short time, had carved a place in her life with the same determination and firmness that always characterized her. Mercedes took the reins of the situation, taking care of all the expenses for the funeral. She made herself present for Harrison, providing him with a shoulder to cry on and an ear to listen, helping him navigate the storm of grief he was experiencing. In an effort to help him heal, Mercedes suggested a trip out of town to a vast canyon known worldwide for its imposing size and breathtaking landscapes. "Harrison, I know words aren't enough right now, but nature has a way of soothing the soul. Let's go to the canyon. Maybe there you'll find some peace. Upon reaching the location, Harrison, overwhelmed by a surge of emotions, let out a guttural scream, releasing all the sorrow built up from losing his mother. Then, he fell into silent tears, each drop laden with pain and longing. Mercedes enveloped him in a motherly embrace, comforting him as she would her own children. As they cried together, Mercedes began sharing her own stories of loss. "You know, Harrison, I've been where you are too. When I lost my husband, I thought I wouldn't survive the pain. And my own children, to whom I dedicated my youth, my love, my support, and my fortune, they no longer seem to care about me." She revealed that she was actually the owner of all the property and the Creaker companies. "But you know, I'm glad we became friends, Harrison, because for the first time in years, I feel happy instead of lonely and abandoned." In this moment of connection, the two lonely souls bonded even further, promising to support each other through difficult times. Harrison, though still grieving, suggested that it was his mother's hard work that taught him to appreciate everything he had. "Perhaps if you created similar conditions for your children, Mercedes, they would learn to treat you with more respect and gratitude." Faced with this proposal, a light shone in Mercedes' eyes, as if a new idea was taking shape. With a mysterious smile, she began unveiling a surprisingly wonderful plan. At that moment of deep reflection, an idea sparked in Mercedes' mind, like a gust of wind rustling the leaves of a tree, awakening a cunning and wonderful plan. Without hesitation, she contacted the administrators of her companies, outlining a clever scheme. The managers were instructed to subtly spread rumors that the company was on the brink of bankruptcy, suggesting that salaries would be drastically reduced, and any remaining profits would be funneled towards settling outstanding debts. As dawn unfolded the next morning, Mercedes' children, inflamed by indignation and fearing the loss of their lavish lives, were the first to rush toward the company office. They arrived, expecting to find Mercedes in her office, ready to hear their discontent in person. Instead, they were greeted by Mercedes' faithful assistant, who handed them a personal letter written by her. The letter contained an invitation to a family dinner, specifying the time. Mercedes expected to see them. Harrison, the janitor, was tasked with welcoming the guests as they arrived. As Mercedes' discontented children entered the room, they noticed her absence. A buzz of discontented murmurs began to fill the space. Just as tension was about to reach its peak, Mercedes made her appearance, radiant in her finest dress. She moved with grace and determination to the head of the table, greeting everyone with a warm smile. She signaled for the staff to begin serving the food. Her children, however, did not seem to have an appetite. Their pale faces and anxious expressions clearly indicated that they were more concerned with the prospect of their lives of luxury and ease potentially coming to an end. Their eyes cast disdainful glances toward Harrison, the janitor, who now shared the same dining table as them. With a warm and welcoming smile on her face, Mercedes initiated the conversation. "I am truly delighted to see all of you here tonight. Allow me to introduce Harrison." She gestured toward the janitor. "He is not only my friend, but has also become my trusted assistant." Taking a deep breath and locking eyes with each of her children, she continued, "I believe it is important to clarify that there is absolutely nothing wrong with the company. I apologize if I caused any alarm. My only desire was to gather all of you here, and for that, I had to be a little creative." Chuck, the eldest of the children, had an immediate and explosive reaction. "Mom, did you really orchestrate this whole charade just to drag us here? You are completely out of your mind," he exclaimed, his eyes sparking with irritation. Helen, on the other hand, shook her head, clearly annoyed. "We have video calls fairly often, Mom. I really don't understand why you made such a fuss." "You're making a mountain out of a molehill," she said, rolling her eyes. Meanwhile, Justin, always pragmatic, did not hide his displeasure. "Mom, what you did is simply absurd. "You're wasting our time," he grumbled, his arms crossed over his chest. Raising her hand, Mercedes gestured for her children to be silent, her voice firm and unwavering. "Listen to me now," she ordered in a raised and decisive tone that silenced the murmurs at the table. She took a deep breath, looked at each of them, and continued. "From this day forward, there will be no preferential treatment for any of you in my company. You will work just like everyone else on the team, under the same conditions, without privileges." Her eyes moved from face to face, ensuring that each of them understood the seriousness of her words. "Until now, you have done nothing more significant than the team that labors day in and day out for the well-being of the company. You have lived under the cloak of privileges, but it is time to change that." Making sure her message was being absorbed, Mercedes stood up, her hands resting on the table, and concluded. "Only when you learn to value everything you have, when you understand the value of hard work, will I allow you to return to your previous positions. Until then, each of you will be on the same level as all the other employees." Mercedes' children, dissatisfied and stunned by their mother's abrupt decision, had no choice but to follow her instructions. They left the grand mansion, heads down and faces stern, resigned to face a reality that was previously unknown to them. Thus, for the next 2 years, they became part of the company's workforce, like any other employee. They worked diligently, experiencing firsthand the daily effort, responsibility, and commitment, all foundations of the wealth they had enjoyed so much. During this period, a tangible change occurred in the way they treated Mercedes. They no longer saw her as an infinite provider of luxuries and conveniences, but rather as the loving and respectable mother she had always been. She, who had built the empire they enjoyed with sweat and determination, they began to look at her with admiration, recognizing her worth and expressing the love and respect that they had previously neglected. However, time is inexorable. Soon, the formidable and beloved Mercedes passed away, leaving a legacy of perseverance, love, and invaluable life lessons for her transformed children. Harrison, who came to see Mercedes as a mother figure, was appointed as the new leader of the company through the matriarch's will before her sad farewell. Mercedes made sure to take care of Harrison, dedicating herself to ensuring that he felt valued and recognized for all the effort and dedication he had always shown. "I want you to know, Harrison, that your devotion and hard work have always been worthwhile. You are the rightful heir to this legacy," she affirmed. Once, with a loving and grateful look, Mercedes lost deeply, shaking her children to the core. The grief of losing their mother, intertwined with the regret of not having valued her presence while she was still alive, weighed heavily on their hearts. They found themselves confronted with the harsh reality of their past neglect and the immeasurable value of the lesson she had left them. The matriarch's loss led to a profound reflection and reassessment of their values and life priorities. Mercedes' children, now more aware and grateful, began gathering with their respective families at the final resting place of the beloved Mercedes Creaker every weekend. Together, they paid homage to the woman who taught them, even in her absence, the true meaning of family, respect, and gratitude. And you, what would you have done in Mercedes' place? Share your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.